This is my very first time sailing. I recently bought the Achilles 24 and took it out for the very first time today. As you can see, there's very little wind. Still, it was a nice day. I was enjoying being out. There was a lot of other boats out on the water. And as the day progressed, the wind started picking up. My intention was to simply learn some basics, such as upwind tacking, which is what I'm trying to do here. And another upwind tack here. As you can see on the right hand side of the screen, there looks to be a storm on the horizon. And as the storm approached, the wind really started picking up. This was good fun. I was enjoying this. The boat was heeling over quite a lot, and I seemed to be getting some good speed. I decided to sail with just the mainsail. Give me an opportunity to master the basics without having to worry about the Hancock foresails that I have. And this sent everything on the left hand side of the cabin crashing down into the companionway. That heeled over more than I was comfortable with. The wind was really starting to pick up now. Whenever I went across the wind, the boat would heel over quite a lot. As you can see there, then I'd point back into the wind and the boat would level out. I started to notice that other boats were either reefing or taking their sails down completely and motoring back to the moorings. So I decided that I should do the same thing. Because obviously there was the chance that the wind would get stronger, and I was struggling to cope with it. So if more experienced sailors were taking their sails down, I figured it would be wise for me to do the same. However, the wind in the sail was so strong that I was unable to pull it down, as you can see there. Struggling to get the sails down and unable to do so. So at this point things started to get a little bit out of control. The sail was half down, flapping around. I was worried about damage to the sail. Flapping around like that didn't seem Didn't seem as though it would be good for the sail. I don't know, they've got a guessing it down here. As you can see there, the way the wind was in the sail was just pulling against me so hard, I was just unable to pull it down. So at this point I actually tried pulling the sail back up, because having it flapping around like that, as I say, I was worried about damage to the sail, so I either wanted it all the way down or all the way up. The sail doesn't actually have reefing in it, which is obviously something that I need to fix. If it did have reefing, I could have tried reefing here, which some of the other boats were doing. The wind in the sail was also preventing me from getting it back up all the way. So I wasn't really sure what to do at this point. I realised that the more I could point into the wind, the less the boat heeled over. So as you can see here, I'm steering it as hard as I can back into the wind, and the boat's not heeling over too badly. So pointing it into the wind like that seemed to be controlling the situation. However, I hadn't intended to sail in such a strong wind. This is my very first time sailing. My intention was simply to learn some of the basics. The strong winds like this were not forecast on this day. There were storms forecast elsewhere in the country, but not at this location. Having seen the storm on the horizon, however, I was aware that it was a very localised storm, so I knew this would pass. It was just a case of holding on until it did. This is certainly more than I was expecting on my first time sailing. I figured that I might have more luck getting the sail down if I could pull directly down on the attachments to the mast, rather than trying to pull it from the tip of the boom. And it was slightly easier, and the wind has dropped here a little bit, but it was still hard to pull it down. I was unable to get it down all the way. And at this point it started to rain. At this point I realised that the camera is attached to the back of the boat, getting wet in the rain. So upon realising that, I switched the camera off and put it away. But shortly after this, the storm did die down, and I made it back to the mooring okay. So certainly more than I was bargaining for my first day sailing, but it's ended well.